Hi, welcome back to McMorris Prosthetic Services. Today I wanted to talk about K-levels, and K-levels are important. They are necessary for us to understand to some degree, and they really dictate what we are allowed to have. So K-levels, basic breakdown of K-levels is that a K-level, I'm sure there's if I threw it in a ChatGPT, it'd give me a specific definition, but a K-level is really an activity level that is designated to an amputee by a doctor, PT, prosthetist, all of them. So really your doctor is the one that has the final say kind of in the documentation and in the notes to your insurance company here in America. This is America based. So if you're watching from another country, educate me please, because I would like to learn how the system works in other places. I mean, I'm getting some good knowledge on like Scandinavia and how things happen over there, and Sweden and Belgium and Norway, and so that's been a fun part of my new job. But I want to know, how does it work on a grand scale everywhere? And so here in America, with the privatized health insurance system, we have to be designated a K-level. And so everything comes from your doctor, saying to the insurance, basically, these are the things that Alec needs to survive. And so to start that, my doctor would say to the insurance, okay, Alec is, active in these 5 ways. These are the things that Alec was doing before his accident. He was coaching high school football. He was snowboarding. He was wakeboarding. He was hiking. His daily goals after amputation are to get back to coaching high school football, to get back to snowboarding, to be able to go walk around with his family at, sporting events and things like that, and not have to slow them down. And so with those 3 things, really, like those goals, those activities of daily living, my doctor probably, like in a realistic world, would mark me as a K4. So K4 is going to be the highest level of activity. So that's someone like me that is generally healthy other than their amputation, right? The rest of my body, I had a lot of things happen to it, but I was young and I recovered quick, and the rest of my body is healthy. It's generally healthy, so I am able to do a lot of things just because the rest of my body is healthy. Not even with a prosthetic, but just because of the situation the rest of my body is in. I could probably still go hike. I could probably still coach high school football. I could probably do, the things that I wanted to do. And so that's where I'm kind of in that K4 category. If I wanted to run a marathon, I don't, and I never will. But if I wanted to, I probably could, that's what that high level means. And then down from there is K3. And so really K3 is where I was when I started. And that is somebody that is like, yeah, I was healthy on my other limbs, but I had a lot of damage to my left knee. So like that still needed to heal, and I needed to learn how to balance, using that and the rest of my body and everything. And so being at a K3 is that next step down from K4. So it's somebody that probably isn't snowboarding or running marathons or hiking, but other than that, they're pretty normal, right? Quote unquote normal. It's like, I need to be able to go to work and be on my feet all day. I need to be able to go to the grocery store and make dinner. I need to be able to take care of, my everyday life. And so in that K3 category, you have access to the devices that can do those things. And then K2 is someone that is really on that lower end, probably some other comorbidities going on, whether that's just general health or in other affected limbs or whatever, but they're dealing with more issues than someone like me is. And so really out of their prosthetic device right now in this moment, they're looking to use it in rehab. They're looking to use it to get from their bed to the wheelchair. They're looking to use it to get into the bathroom, maybe use it standing in the kitchen to, make dinner or whatever it is. But they're not really like going out and ambulating. If they go to the grocery store, they're probably using the scooter rather than walking into the store. And then a K1 is somebody that's that's probably not a candidate realistically. Maybe that's because they've got, comorbidities with the rest of their body that is really limiting them, or maybe it's a mental, or emotional decision, like I don't want to use a prosthetic or whatever it is. But they're somebody that is generally not a candidate to use a prosthetic, and again, that just means that like they have a lot of things limiting them from being able to have the balance, strength, coordination, and cognitive function to operate a prosthetic device. So that's K1, the not a user, K4, the users that you see on the Toyota commercial climbing Everest, right? And so with those K levels, what they are designed to do is again, your doctor designates Alec is K3, right? Alec is K3. And so he puts that in his notes, and then when the notes go off to the insurance will look at those notes and say, okay, Dr. Hansen said that Alec is K3 because he wants to be able to do these three things. And this is his proof, to show this is what he was doing before, this is how he's going to get there, etc. And then from there, the insurance company will look and say, okay, I saw this is what Dr. Hansen said. Now I'm going to look at what Nate, what my prosthetist has ordered for Alec. And so back then it was a Renegade foot and a Plie 3 and, those types of things. So really what the insurance is looking at is Dr. Hansen says Alec is a K3. That tells the prosthetist that I can have this list of devices. I can have this knee or this knee or this knee or this foot or this foot or this foot and this socket suspension. But I can't have this knee that's over here in the K4 category, and I can't have this foot that's in this K2 category. I mean, it's easier to go down than it is to go up. You can always kind of go back and be like, well, he's going to get this foot for this activity, and that makes sense to insurances. But you can't go and say, I'm going to get Alec an X4 knee that is, $100,000 because he wants to be able to hike and do those things. But I didn't show that I did it before, and I'm not really progressing that way. So the insurance isn't going to come back and say he can have this most expensive top of the line device when I'm in that K3 category. So really, your K level designation designates what prosthetic devices you are allowed to be approved for, and your prosthetist is allowed to be reimbursed on and paid out through the insurance. And so that's, your K level. When I was a new amputee, I really was frustrated by these. I would be like, are you kidding me? Like, you're going to put me into a box and designate me this way, and that determines like the pieces of my body that I can use. And it was very hard for me to deal with that, like for a little while. I would get very frustrated, and if you're an amputee, like you just get frustrated and end up screaming at the sky, because the ones that really make the decisions and control everything, the insurance companies, like they're never gonna hear me anyways to some degree. And so it's like, my prosthetists, my doctors, they agree, they feel the same. They don't want me to feel like dehumanized by having a K level, But as I've worked in the field now for a long time and had to deal with reimbursement from insurances and had to deal with appeals and had to deal with, really a lot of different things, it makes a lot of sense. And I think that it is a good system for kind of, making sure that things stay within the lines, I guess, to some degree. And it doesn't mean that like once you're designated K2, you're just K2 forever. Like once you're K2 and your doctor says, okay, we want to, get Alec working to this level, and then I go see him in 6 months, and it's like, man, I've really been working hard in PT. I feel confident on my leg. I'm a lot stronger than I was when I last saw you. And my doctor's like, wow, yeah, you've like, we need to get you some new devices that keep up with where you're at now and what you want to do now. And so let me put in my documentation, hey, Alec has worked really hard in physical therapy over the last 6 months. He now has a goal to, go hike this hike in Utah, or he has a goal to snowboard on this now that it's possible for him. So we need to, get him this foot that's going to allow him to do that. And that's how it works. So if you as an amputee want to prove that you're committed to working hard and prove that you're committed to learning how to use your devices the correct way, et cetera, you can go get things, you know, and you can move up in those K levels, and you can get approved for things that typically you wouldn't have, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago. And so you're not put in a box. And that's what I didn't understand in the beginning, is like, you know, you're not put in a box. You just have to kind of prove, like, one, it's not even proof to me. It's like, okay, let me learn down here the fundamentals, and then I'll work up. You know, that's the football coach in me, is like, now I do like seeing like new AKs on a hydraulic knee and a basic foot, and like learn how that knee is going to function, learn how you can yield that down ramps with a hydraulic ankle and a hydraulic knee. And then when you get your sea leg or your genium or whatever it is, your Navi, and you're riding that resistance, everything feels a lot more comfortable. You understand how those higher end devices are going to function. And so I think that it is, that part specifically, K levels specifically, I think is set up well, and is a good kind of like structure for us to work on. But that's K levels and their purpose and benefits. If you have questions about K levels, or you're curious about how it works here, or you're from another country watching and you want to educate me on how it works in yours, put a comment in the videos, and we'll get back to you. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Thank you.